Review presented by Dave Campbell's Texas Football, breaking down 2020 Texas High School Football Playoff brackets. My name is Greg Tepper, and this bracket's name is 6A Division II. So, we're talking about the largest classification here, but the smaller division of the largest classification. And remember, this is the one bracket, this is the one classification, rather, that is not pre-split. It depends on who finishes in what position that determines what teams go to what bracket, right? Based on enrollment. Well, a lot of the conversation is going to focus on who's not here, okay? A lot of the conversation is going to focus on which teams did not get into this bracket. Because, for example, I will just tell you, flat out, guaranteed, stone cold locked, we will have a new 6A Division II state champion. That is true because the defending state champs, Austin Westlake, are in these Division I bracket. So, a lot to get to. Each region kind of has its own flavor. Let's start in Region 1. Region 1, I think, has a lot to do with quarterbacks and how much you trust them. Okay? Let's talk about Denton Geyer. Eli Stowers is back. He has been great. He's been fantastic. I would say Geyer has been a little bit up and down. Sometimes they play really, really well and they look like an elite team that's going to win this, run away with this region. And other times, I think they play with their food a little bit and they play down to their competition. Coppell's a dangerous first-round matchup for them, but I do think that when you got a guy like Eli Stowers and you got the playmakers that they have, they're going to be a threat to win this top half of the bracket. Dallas Jesuits, an interesting squad coming out of District 7. Up here is interesting. I think El Paso, Eastwood, and Abilene is a really underrated first-round matchup. Keep an eye on that. Bottom half of the bracket is where things get really interesting. Because let's talk about Flower Mound Marcus, the champions of District 6. And I think that they were, and maybe still are, going to be a real sexy pick to come out of Region 1. A lot has to do with the health of Garrett Nussmeier, the LSU commit, the quarterback who was apparently injured his hand in the final, in their season finale. How healthy is he? If he doesn't play, Prosper can beat him. Prosper, you want to talk about a team that's been up and down. Prosper at times has looked unbelievable. And they took Allen to the wire at home, and then they go and they have these bouts of inconsistency. That is a really intriguing first-round matchup that I think is going to shape the rest of the entire bracket. San Angelo Central is a very interesting squad. Another team that's been a bit up and down, but I think they're peaking at the right time. Keep an eye on Hazlitt Eaton, a new program out of the DFW Metroplex that I think is very interesting. Arlington Bowie, y'all, keep an eye on the Volunteers, okay? They have been really sound, really solid all year long. Keep an eye on them. This region's really interesting, and I'm very intrigued to see what happens here. Right, with Denton Geyer, if they play to their paper, they are one of the best teams in the state, and maybe co-favorite to win the state championship, or at least make the state championship game. But very interesting bracket here. A lot will be determined after this first round of the playoffs. Let's go to Region 2. Region 2, I think you've got two teams that are going to catch everybody's eyes, but there should be three or four. The two teams that are going to catch everybody's eye are Cedar Hill and Bridgeland. Let's talk about Maximum Bears, because the Bridgeland Bears are dangerous. When you're talking about Connor Wigman, their quarterback, Dylan Goffney, and an array of wide receivers that they have out there, their offense is extremely dangerous. I know they are a new program, but keep an eye on them. Potentially dangerous second-round matchup with Decaney. Keep an eye on Temple, okay? Temple's a team that I think that they're too young to know they're not supposed to be this good. This Temple team's really fun to watch. I think that they are growing up in a hurry. That's a team to keep an eye on. Rockwall Heath, also very explosive. Top half of the bracket here, Cedar Hill, I think, is your favorite to come out of this top half of the bracket, but the team I want to draw your attention to is Tomball Memorial. Tomball Memorial has been really flying under people's radar. I love this offense. I love the way that they play. I think they're a danger for everybody. For me, I think we're heading towards a Cedar Hill versus Bridgeland regional final, which is probably a coin flip at this point, but a supremely interesting bracket here with a lot of twists and turns along the way and a couple of sleepers like Temple, Decaney, Rockwall Heath, and then the Tomball Memorial that you need to keep an eye on. Also, Naaman Forest. Keep an eye on them, those boys from out of Garland. Let's go over to Region 3. In Region 3, there is one big boy who is here. There's a big looming threat, and they're right about here. This general area. If you're seeing them kind of pointing to this part, that's Katy. Okay? Katy, of course, the Tigers, they did drop down to Division II after a few years up at the Division I bracket. I think that them going here is huge, huge news and could really shape the entire 6A Division II bracket, because I think Katie's probably your favorite to win this region. Now, let's talk about a regional semifinal potentially against Alvin Shadow Creek, okay? The defending 5A Division I state champs have moved up to 6A. It has been some fits and starts, but I think they're rounding into forms, and when you have a quarterback like Kyron Drones, they are going to be a threat. That is really interesting. Potentially Katie and Shadow Creek here in the final. Keep an eye on CE King. CE King is very dangerous as well. Okay, down here at the bottom half of the bracket, I really think that this George Ranch team is flying under people's radar. I think this Clear Falls team is interesting. This is a lot more wide open. This feels like there's 2, maybe 3 teams to keep an eye on. Here, I mean, it's really anybody's ball game. I think that Beaumont Westbrook, of course, had great pedigree, but they've struggled a little bit of late. I think Houston Straight Jesuit has a history of pulling off big stunners. Just ask Beaumont Westbrook. This is a really intriguing part of the region. I think all eyes are going to be on Katy in a potential regional semifinal matchup with Alvin Shadow Creek, but Region 3 remains very interesting. Region 4. And this is where Westlake normally would live. They do not live here, and so there's a bit of a vacuum, right? There's a bit of a vacuum, and who is able to step up in that spot, right? Austin Vandergrift up here is a team I am very intrigued by. Their defense is exceptional. I think they are very well coached. A potential second round matchup with Converse Judson. That right there, that's a second round matchup that, like, just through the luck of the draw is incredible. That should be like a regional final type matchup. San Antonio Brennan, I think, is very dangerous as well. Keep an eye on Edinburgh Vela from out of the Rio Grande Valley. And this bottom half, I don't know, man. I mean, take your pick. San Antonio Johnson, first year coach Mark Soto's done an incredible job, but they stumbled down the stretch. That has me a little bit worried. I really like this Brownsville Hanna team from out of the Rio Grande Valley, and I think they actually got a really decent draw here that could see them in a regional semifinal, potentially against Johnson. Wagner, of course, is a team that has made deep runs in the playoffs in the past years, but they're moving up to 6A. How do they handle it? And a tough first round matchup with Johnson. Keep an eye on Hayes. They run the slot T, and that is a very dangerous offense, especially in the playoffs. Okay, so when you take a look at 6A Division II writ large, a lot of this is going to come down to what you think of this, right, with Region 3, because I think that Katy is the big looming threat in 6A Division II. But over here, I think you've got intrigue everywhere. A lot of quarterback intrigue here, right? A lot of talent here, where you've got perennial powers like Cedar Hill, along with newcomers like Bridgeland that are in the mix. Up here, I think again Katy, Shadow Creek probably rule the roost here, but there's a lot of intriguing teams. And Region 4, again, I mean, Vandergrift and Judson are probably my early favorites, but I think that you can make an argument for Brennan. I think you can make an argument for Edinburgh Vela. I think you can make an argument for San Antonio Johnson if they get hot. Heck, I think you make an argument for Brownsville Hanna. A big wide open bracket here in Region 4. And kind of a wide open bracket kind of writ large when you take a look at who's not here, right? We're not talking about Austin Westlake, who I think would have been the favorite to win this bracket. Instead, we're talking about teams that could show up at AT&T Stadium unexpectedly. And that's a lot of fun. We're going to have fun covering it for you at TexasFootball.com.